second video in a three-part series. First part was the Western, teams. We looked over these right here. This part, we're going to look over the Eastern teams, rank them. And then after that, the third part, we'll combine them together and sort of see where we're at. I would say I'm not the most knowledgeable about the APAC region. I didn't analyze it a lot last season, so we'll see how this goes. It should definitely be really interesting. I think a lot of teams will sort of be like really high or really low just based off what's happening and their team values. So I think it should be sort of easy to start off, but let's just go straight into it. So I think, you just put dragons up here. I think you put Chengdu down low because they're running into some massive eternal issues right now. I think you put here, I'll explain why. I think here their roster is sort of mid. Fusion's roster is pretty good. Spark, I think, has some like good opportunities. All right, so I think it'd be something like this. So why am I putting Hunters last? So I mean, the main reason I don't think the Hunters roster by any means is bad. I think Lieb is nuts. I think Jinmu's great. I think a lot of these players are insane. One reason why I think they're low is because I believe they're going through internal budget issues and they're losing a lot of their players. So hence why I'm putting them very low here. I'm not sure who they'll retain, who they won't. I could be wrong about the budget issues. I've just heard about it. So I mean, they could be like over here. But if they lose everything and become sort of like a previous year's Valiant or something, where they literally are just picking up players that don't have a lot of experience and go 0-40. At least I think Valiant was 0-40 last season. So yeah, I would sort of say that's sort of how I'd look at it. Charge. Why is Charge C? So I'll be honest, I'm not really impressed with pretty much any of these players, I'd say. I think Krong's sort of good, developed sort of good, Unique sort of good. But like none of these players are like really insane, I would say, for the APAC region. I don't think any of them, like Eileen, yeah, sort of okay too, but like none of them are like nuts. Like I'd be like, okay, this person is gonna like carry the team. This person is gonna like lead them. They don't really have that. I think their coaching staff, I think Sung Woo's got a lot of experience. Obviously with Charge. I feel like didn't he work with another team? No, it was mainly Charge. So I think that's great. Extra Youngjin, I think they're both a bit new, and I'm curious to see how they do. Youngjin brings some experience from Shanghai in 2019. I'm just Charge has always been in a position where they've been mid-tier. A long time ago when they were a mixed roster, they were better. They were like up around the top. You could probably look around like here. They were just better because it was just straight up better. They were a mixed roster if I remember correctly. Yeah, so they had Nero, they had Eileen, they had Neptuno. I think this is also when Furry Shot I think left before this, but even though like I don't know how much time Nero got, as well as Neptuno, but also you just look at this roster. You have Shu, who we all know is nuts. We have Nero, who I think is nuts. We have Happy, who I think is also nuts. We had like these players that were on Charge and they got developed a little bit, and then they went to like literally top teams. But now when I look at Charge, I don't think a lot of these players are players that are not like crazy. Like you look at Krong, you look at Rio. Like have you ever got picked up by better teams? Not really, right? Like have they really been developed more? I don't think so, right? So that's where I'm sort of just like very by them. I don't think this team is something that's really amazing. That's why I'm sort of putting Charge where it is. I think they need a lot to improve. So why I'm putting Valiant where they are. Also some things might move around, just a heads up. When I'm putting Valiant where they are. So I'm gonna be pretty hype about Valiant a little bit, and the reasoning why is they have No Hill. I think No Hill's record speaks for itself. You can just see what's going on here. He comes from a big technical background, sort of like myself. Physics, engineering, basically. So very technical. I think Huyao is interesting as an assistant coach / player, but I think all these players are good. right? Players are like really, really, really good. I think, and that's why I think that this will work well. I also think No Hill, he sort of elevated Team CC, and a lot of teams he was on, he elevated. And I'm very curious to see how he sort of elevates. Very curious to see how he elevates Valiant, given what he has. That's why I'm not putting it at the top, right? It's not like he's like always going to compete with these guys up here. He's not, he's down low. He's somewhere in the mid because it could go poorly, it could go really well. Hence, he's here. Why is Spark here? So, Spark, in my opinion, has some amazing players that I think like are like top of the line. Like I think like they are, not Dragon's caliber, but like a little bit below Dragon's caliber, and they're just really good. Like I think Alpha Yi is like, if I'm ever watching Pack, I want to watch Alpha Yi. If I want to like watch some like player to learn something or see, I'm watching Alpha Yi. Alpha Yi is an amazing player, super flexible, just raw mechanics, like very good, and he seems very smart with how he moves too in positions. Pineapple super flexible. I don't think he's insanely mechanically strong. I'd say like mid low tier. Super rich, obviously not bad. Bernard, I think it's also not bad. I'm not too happy with Cliche, if I said that right. If I didn't, I'm sorry. I'm just not the biggest fan of him. I think he's a lot to work on. So like, I hope they play more Bernard and Gouchwei. I think Gouchwei and Bernard are both like mid tier tanks. Architect in a certain niche, like Architect is very good. Certain heroes, and Chai is also not bad. So I think they have some very good like players that are like top caliber. They have a lot of mid tier, which is why I'm sort of putting them where they are at. And it'll also be interesting to see them, the mixture between Chinese and Korean players as well. Jangoon, I think, this guy just brings a lot of experience. Like if you just look at him, he's got a lot of experience. So I think it'll be very interesting to see him in this environment. Because I don't think he's ever been in an environment where he had to mix, like rosters. Old London, I'm pretty sure this London was full Korean. Yeah. So I don't think he's been in an environment where he's had a mixed roster. So I'm curious to see how that goes for him. He might have done it before or whatnot. But Jangjoon's not a bad coach. I've talked to him a bit. Seems like a very nice guy too. Miro, Neko, they've got some experience. Not too sure about them, to be honest. But I'm very curious to see this team and sort of see how they proceed. I think there's again some good aspects in some top players, as well as I think having a good strong head coach can go well. Again, the reason why they're mid tier here is because not older players are insane, and I'm a little concerned about them being a mixed roster and the coach not having a lot of experience with that. So, and I could be maybe wrong about that, but that's sort of why they're here. So, and it goes left to right, so this being better than that, it's really close, I'd say. The Seoul, I didn't get to look too much at Seoul, but it's definitely a interesting roster because I think Creative's nuts. I think Fitz is nuts. I think Profit's also pretty good. I think Stalker's not bad. Smurf's obviously good. Bin Dame, I'm probably butchering his name, sorry, is like also very good. Like I think this roster mechanically is actually like it's nuts. Like it's a really strong roster. Like I would put this like these guys are like even, like they're really close. The only reason why I wouldn't put it higher up is just because I'm not sure how this coaching staff will do. I feel like Seoul has been an interesting place where the coaching staff is like good and they've got stuff to work, but it always feels sometimes like they just fall short and they never are able to hit the pinnacle and like go up more. So yeah, I think there's a lot of Toby doubters. There's a lot of people who like are really like excited about Toby. It'll be interesting. I am neutral, I would say. I'm not for player coaches. I'm not against it. I think it really depends on the person and the experience that they have as an actual coach. As someone who, in my opinion, started off as a really bad coach and learned a lot, I think it takes a lot of time to improve and actually understand how to teach. And I could say that like a lot of people just don't naturally start and being able to teach. A lot of people aren't able to be good leaders. A lot of people aren't able to just be like, oh, this is a situation. How do I go into solving this situation, solving problems? Like that's difficult. right? That's why you have like in the real world, I compare coaching in Overwatch a lot to like my IRL job, like in engineering, where I have a project manager, and you have presentations and like organization. If you're a good coach, then you have hopefully good leadership skills, which relates to project management. You know how to deal with when something goes wrong in your project and how to go about it. Does Toby have those skills? I do not know. Has he had time to develop those skills? Again, do not know. Um, but has he had past experiences recently? I don't think so. So that's why I'm a bit hesitant on it. I'm curious to see how it goes. Obviously, he has people who are under him that have experience. So I'm very curious to see how this will go. It's also interesting because this is one of the teams that is putting a lot of stuff into data. Um, Wizard is a really smart person. I don't think anyone can say he's not. I think he's also smart in terms of data and data science and analytics and stuff. So I'm curious to see how they analyze that and use that. MMA, don't worry. I think MMA, if I remember correctly, was Soul and Genji for quite a while. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. And same thing with Bungori. Like they've been with Soul for quite a while. So again, I'm pretty high on this roster. I'm hoping people are coming in from different experiences. You have Vindame, you have Stalker, very young, right? Also very young, right? So you have sort of people who are great players, but they're rookies, right? And then you have people who are literally like seasoned players, like Creative, Profit, Fitz, Smurf, like some of the best players, in their roles. Curious to see how those integrate, and if there's any like thing like clashing going on, but I have a feeling it shouldn't, and I think this will be a really strong roster. I'm just curious how the coaching staff's going to integrate, and if they're going to be able to jump through that bump to be a top tier team. Philly, I think they're a bit better. I know people are probably going to hate me for saying this, but I think Carpe is a bit washed. I don't think he's that great anymore. I feel like almost year by year, he's sort of just, gone down and down and down in terms of mechanics. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like, I think he's just not that great anymore. So if you compare him to like any top, hit scan player, I just don't think he can compete. But I mean, you've got MN3, you've got Zest. I think both these players are they're rookies, but they're if you've seen them play, they're definitely proven. Like they are very, 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 very good players. Fury mechanically nuts, Aim God mechanically nuts, Fixa doesn't make a lot of mistakes, also mechanically nuts. This dude was on Boston, he was playing with Ping on Brig. I don't even know how it's possible to play Ping on Brig from KR to NA, and he's pulling it off. His Brig looked like clean and seamless, and he wasn't making mistakes. I was like, I remember seeing this guy in Scrim, and I'd be like confused as hell. How is this guy getting value on Brig with like insane ping? Brig is AIDS on ping. I remember the Yun playing Brig on ping, or Iris, sorry. And like I'd be like, why didn't you pack the person? And then he'd be like, I couldn't, like I did, and like and then he showed me his POV, and it's literally just like lagging, and it's like staggered, and there's just such high like it was awful, and the fact that this guy got away with it was just insane to me. So I'm actually sort of excited to see him on an Owl team and see how he does. He's not a top player, but I think he has the capability of again not making a lot of mistakes, and proving his worth. Hopefully, in terms of coaching staff, I'll be honest. I think they lost a lot of their former like really top coaches, like 9K, Moby. I think some of those coaches are just really good. Like I think they're really top coaches. Jin, Chara, Sungmin. Obviously Jin coming in from Charge and then T1, Chara from T1, Sungmin from O2. I'm hopeful that they'll be good. But that's sort of where I'm worried on is actually as a coaching staff, because I think this team has had Philly has had insane coaching staff. Like again, like 9K, Moby are easily top 7, easily in terms of like just mechanic, like strategic minds and coaching. So like they're heavily respected in terms of KR and NA based coaching staff. So it'll be interesting to see how this works with this new coaching staff. but mechanically this roster is looking sharp. I would like to see another tank. I mean, I know Fury's mechanics is mechanically nuts. I know he's an insane, player, but I think just having another tank would be safe. Um, so yeah, so that's why I definitely think Philly above. I think they did mechanically. There's a sort of a mechanics a little difference. I also think coaching staff, like I said, what I'm worried about here is the sort of like their newer players. I think, and I'm worried about both teams' coaching staff, to be honest, a bit. We'll have to see how they do. I'm not sure really what's happened in KR, but if you've noticed, there hasn't been or APAC, there hasn't been a lot of retention in APAC coaching staff from season to season. It's more they're actually taking a lot more coaches from tier 2 than honestly NA is. They're taking a lot more from tier 2 and they're losing a lot from previous tier 1. So, and I'm not sure entirely why. Maybe it's they're not performing as well as it. Maybe something else, but that's something very interesting that's happening there. That's really not happening in the West right now. Okay, I mean, this is sort of obvious. Well, Shanghai is up here because Shanghai has obviously got to be on top. Like, these players are just insane. Like, they're just actually nuts. Like, Izayaki, one of the best flex supports. Fleta is Fleta. Lip is Lip. Void is again Void. Like, these players are just absolutely insane. Like, they're easily top 5, if not top 3, in their roles. So they've had synergy. They're just really, really good. They're super flexible. They can get away with a lot. They've got Moon. They picked up Pavane. I hope I said your name right. And I think this is a really, 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 really smart pickup. He was with nfReach. He brings a lot of old experience, and I think that's really important. When Owl started, he was there at the start of Owl, and he sort of guided nfReach. So coming back into Overwatch 2, I think this is a coach that is just a really smart pickup. He may have not been, I'm not sure what he was doing. Oh, he was with London, right? And London did not go well. And then I think for 2021, I don't think he was on a team actually. Or no, he was doing talent recruiting or something, director. But I think he's a very smart pickup. Damon and Kong was with Shanghai before, and then Kong was also with Shanghai before. I just think this, again, I'm not even worried about the coaching staff because Moon is, I think how Moon goes about stuff and his, how he approaches his coaching methodology and sort of how he does a lot of team-based discussions. I think that's a very good way to approach stuff, especially when you have a lot of high mechanically skilled players, and they have a lot of opinions about the game. And I think he has a good idea of how to go through that and handle that as well as get results. So yeah, and a lot of people might ask how do I know stuff about these coaches? There's a lot of podcasts actually that talk about these coaches. There's Tactical Crouch, GG Recon. I'm a really big fan of stuff that Yiska actually has done. You can obviously watch Plat's chat. I have nothing against Plat's chat. But I really do like what Yiska's done. Like Tactical Crouch podcast and GG Recon, both, Yiska's involved in. And he asks a lot more in-depth questions about things, and it goes a lot more in deeper detail about the inner workings of teams, as well as he'll have guests, come in from different teams, talk about their style or whatnot, or other team style. And that's how I learn a lot about inner workings, or I've just talked to coaching staff or talked about it or heard about it from somewhere else. So yeah, so that's why I think Shanghai is definitely up top here. I don't think it's even a question. So I think to me this is sort of what I'd be looking at. Again, this is a little weird because they're going through some stuff. Charge is just I hope they can get out of their stump, but I don't even think their players are mid, in my opinion, and I think they have a lot of things they're gonna have to work on. Valiant, I'm hopeful for. Spark, I'm definitely hopeful for because a few players. These two teams that just have insane mechanical, strong players on their team. We'll see in part 3. Make sure to check that out because that'll definitely go into sort of comparing these versus the NA teams, and I think that's going to be really, really interesting. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed.